Hello, everyone. I'm Kirsty, and I'm here with the fifth week of our 20-week series about improving your business before selling it. Now, there's always loads of different things that you can do to improve your business. And ultimately, when you do those, the sales and the profit will increase. And sometimes people just fall in love with their business and don't want to sell it again. The important thing we're looking at the moment is making those improvements. And these will help you whether you do want to just grow your business or if you want to sell it. Because there's so many different improvements, this week we're going to cover the 5 key things that are important to prioritize with those improvements. So, point 1 is to rank your improvement areas. And the best way I think of doing that is through the level of impact that might have and the feasibility of doing it. So the first thing to do is identify your key areas that need improvement. So I would suggest going through your finances and saying, is there anything in finance that needs improving? It might be more than one measure, but for example, you might have cash flow or it might be profitability. Put those down. Then think about your operational efficiency, and is there something that's stopping your business from growing? Put those down. Your customer base, one of the things that people buying your business don't like to see is dependence on just 1 or 2 customers. So if that's the issue with your business, put that in as well. Then think about tech. Do you have systems and processes in place that make things easy? They're so cheap to buy some of these things these days. Things like a customer relationship management system, a CRM system, or a social media platform where you make sure that there's regular social media marketing. And the last one will, I think, the areas you need to look at is employees. So are your employees really motivated? Is there anything you can do to motivate them? Do you have a high turnover or low turnover of staff, or is your retention fantastic? And have they got the right skills, and have you done something to give them a development plan? So those are just a few ideas. But once you've got those relevant for your ones, then what you want to do is assess the impact. So for each of those different areas, look at how much time and resource will be how much improvement you need, and what to increase the business value. So for example, if you have problems with cash flow, how much regular income do you need each month to make that easy? And then how much impact is that going to have on the value of your business? If you can get your cash flow right, generally you can multiply the value of your business 2, 3, 4 times. And the other thing is to think about with those is, will it increase the number of people who are interested in buying your business? So some people will, for example, look at putting a text system in place, which costs an awful lot of money, takes an awful lot of time to put in place, and doesn't actually make a difference to the person who's buying your business. So impact and feasibility is your first thing you want to do once you've identified those areas for improvement. I worked with Smith's Bakery, and so they were a family-owned bakery in Manchester, and their key areas that they thought would be good for improvement would be their online ordering system. That's because that had a high impact. If they could do that, it would get a lot more customers coming in. And the feasibility was medium. Obviously, there's a cost involved in setting up the online, but so it's high impact, medium feasibility. The next thing was very fashionable at the moment, which was improving their vegan product line. The impact of that was medium, because obviously not everyone's vegan and not everyone is looking for a plant-based diet, but it's obviously going to appeal well to a niche group. And there was high feasibility of doing that. There wasn't really much problem in changing some of the ingredients around to make a vegan plant-based range of bakery products. And then the other one they put in was opening in a new location on one of the outside villages in Manchester. So they really liked that because it would be a high impact, but they saw it as low feasibility because they were looking to sell their business in a couple of years and they felt that they couldn't really get a new business set up and running to make enough of impact by that time. So they, after doing that exercise, they prioritized their online ordering system upgrade and then their vegan product line. And they shelved their opening a new location as a longer term project. Next thing you want to do is really set realistic timelines for implementing the changes. And it's very easy to underestimate how long it's going to take you to do that. So firstly, you want to break down improvements into manageable steps. So identify all the necessary tasks for those prioritized areas of improvement that you've just covered. And then you want to determine if there's dependencies between tasks. So it's important to, if an online ordering system depends on you having a good IT platform, it's not worth doing one without the other. And then create a logical sequence of actions. So look at your feasibility and your impact. And it's always good to get some early wins for ones that are very, very feasible and easy to put in place. Next, estimate your time for each of the steps. So some of these tasks can be quite complex. I find it useful just writing a little bullet point, a list of those areas. And you also need to think about, if you're putting in new technology, how long is it going to take your staff to take that technology on, or your customers indeed. And then always leave a little bit of extra. I always put an extra 10% more because it normally takes you longer than you expect. And then also consider potential disruptions to your ongoing operations. So try to minimize your day-to-day impact of your business. So if you're putting a new IT system in, try to do it in the background while you're still running your new one until it's ready to launch. Schedule any major changes during slower periods of business. I'll cover that more in the example I've got, and then prepare contingency plans because these things never always go to plan. So I work with an IT consultancy locally to me in Bristol. So they wanted to put in place, they decided, this IT consultancy, that a project management system was going to be one of their most impactful things. So they set aside 2 weeks for research and selecting the software, 1 week to purchase and install, which I thought wasn't really long enough, but 3 weeks for data migration, 2 weeks for staff training, and then 4 weeks for the 2 systems, their current one and the other one, to work in parallel to make sure that the new system was working well, and then a week to fully implement and retire the old system. So that was a 13-week time frame that they'd put in place. And they know that in the summer months they don't get much work because decision makers tend to go on holiday with their kids. So the client demand was down, so they minimized the disruption, and in fact by September they'd done the launch of their new system. So the next one is allocating resources that you need to improve initiatives. Now, I work with a lot of business owners that think it's a really good idea to manage these things themselves. But when you're trying to run a business and you're looking after operations, team, marketing, and everything else, it's much better if you can trust somebody in your team to and give them the responsibility for actually owning these improvement initiatives. You need to determine the necessary budget for each of them and what people you're going to need for that, and if you need any changes to your tech, so hardware or software. The next one is to balance the resource allocation across different initiatives. So look back at your little chart of impact versus feasibility and prioritize based on that. As I said, you should really consider the interdependencies between the projects, but ensure that your core operations are adequately resourced. I've often seen change initiatives in companies that have been have totally overtaken the business, and the rest of the business dies down during that time, and sales and profit drop. Avoid that by actually having a core team or a core individual who looks after the initiative. And then consider outsourcing or partnerships if there's specialized improvements. So I often do a sort of like cost analysis. There's so many SMEs in your local area that can often pick up something that you need to do, like a tech change, and will do it much more quickly and efficiently than you, which is ultimately save you money. So it's really worth looking at that and strategic partnerships so that you can share resources. So an example of this was a landscaping company I worked with in Leeds. They had 3 initiatives: a CRM system that they wanted to put in place, customer management system. So that was going to financially cost them 15 grand, and they needed one person dedicated to that for 10 hours a week, and they also needed tech upgrade because the server wouldn't handle that. So they'd looked at that from each of those 3 aspects at the beginning there. They wanted a fleet GPS tracking system. They realised that they only needed about 5 hours a week from an ops manager on that, so they took that into consideration. They needed a budget of about 8 grand for the devices, and they also needed to think about the GPS devices and tracking software. Fortunately, that was really cheap because everyone has got GPS tracking on their smartphones these days. So they decided to outsource the CRM system to a specialized IT firm so that their IT people in the house could focus on just making sure that the day-to-day running of the operation was doing well, and that they thought it was quite a little resource needed on the GPS tracking, so they did that as well. The next one is to establish clear metrics to measure your progress. I think somebody once said, if it ain't measured, it doesn't succeed. So it's really important to have those KPIs in place. So first you want to do is define those KPIs and align them to your improvement goals. So it's important to say, is your improvement financial, human, customer, and actually relate the KPIs into that. Make sure that all of your objectives that you put for those goals are SMART, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, and include both leading and lagging indicators. So very often we look at lagging indicators, which are the financial ones, like how we've done with sales and profit, rather than looking at some of the leading indicators, which is, for example, in marketing, is the amount of money you're spending on marketing, or the amount of leads you're generating. So it's really important to have those in place. Then you want to set up the right measurement systems to really track and report on these metrics. That might be just your accounts team doing that, or you might need to put a new system in place. But the key thing is the regular reporting schedules. If you are doing a 13-week project, the minimum you want to report is once a week to make sure that you're still on track. And the other thing is to review and adjust based on progress. You've got your benchmarks, you've got your targets, and it's important to look at those once a week and say, are we on track? Are we ahead or behind schedule? And go from there, really. And the final one is to make sure that you have a nice developed structure for change management. Change management is really important, but it's really key when you're trying to, there's so many things that you need to do to get your business ready for sale to make it so much less stress, so much more value, and so much more potential for loads of people to be interested in your business. So your structured approach should be, firstly, creating your vision for your change, and then communicating that clearly to all of your stakeholders. The second one is, you're not an island. As a business owner, you want to make sure that your team is involved. So bring your employees into the improvement process. And if you can give each of them different responsibilities that they they can own and enjoy owning, but also be accountable for. It really helps get the progress of change going through a lot quicker. So you want to encourage two-way communication and feedback and put a process in place to do that. But the more you can involve your employees, the better and more effective your change will be, and more likely it is to deliver results. The other important thing to think about is giving these people the right training and support. Now, that might be as simple as giving them an online course that they can do. It might be giving them extra time each day to focus on that project that they're doing. But you really want to make sure that they have the right processes, the right support, and the right tech to do that correctly. So I had a really nice example with Cotswold Crafts, which was a furniture maker in Gloucestershire that I worked with. They wanted to do a digital transformation to bring themselves into the modern era, to stand a better hope of getting a good valuation and getting a good business buyer. So their vision that they created was bringing the Cotswolds craftsmanship into the digital age. That was really a vision for that internal project. They had to go make sure that their stakeholder engagement was right. So they wanted to, they work with a lot of artisans, and these are the people who will be supplying the products that they sell. So they held workshops with them to address concerns and make sure that traditional methods were still in place, hand in hand with the tech to promote the sales. Communication, as I say here, is very key. They had monthly town halls where they got their team and some of the artisans together. They gave updates on the exciting changes of the project, and they also used, with the benefit of technology, a Slack channel so that people could give their thoughts and views and feedback every minute of every day if they wanted to. For training, they partnered with a local college who delivered their tech training skills to their partners and to their staff, and they did quarterly surveys after to gain understanding of how well the employees had adopted the systems and were quite happy about it. Having this structured approach is really good when you're doing any changes in the business, because it helps that change to happen much more effectively, because your teams are really, really bought into it. They've been involved from the beginning. They've had ownership on the way through, and it's a really good way to get those changes in place effectively and quickly. Each time I run through this, I talk about the sales success circle. If you want to find out more, or you're not sure how to go about any of the things we cover on here, or how to prioritize the changes that are going to make a massive difference to you selling your business, then you might want to consider joining the sales success circle. This is where you can it's a membership site, so you're there with other people who are business owners who are looking for changes, and it's got fantastic tools that are free on there, free with the membership, which is how to rank improvement areas, how to set realistic timelines, how to allocate resources, and make sure that you get a return on your investment before you sell your company, as well as when you sell the company. And so if you want any of those tools, or you're hand-holding through the weekly coaching sessions where your specific concerns are covered, then think about joining the Sales Success Circle. This is a really good way to get customized improvement that's right for your business, but more particularly, it's also about getting that comradeship. Sometimes it's easy to think about yourself on your own as business owner, and this really gets you to be part of a team of people who are going through similar things and sharing your successes. So, do we have any questions today? Oh, okay, it's starting to come through. Let's have a look at the ones. Ah, right, okay, I'll start with this one. This is an interesting one. So the key mistakes that people make when trying to boost their business's value before selling. Okay, I think there's lots of different areas in this, but I think the first one is if you try and do short-term fixes as opposed to doing something that's going to be successful in the long term, it won't actually add value to your business. They look good on paper, but they can fall apart during the due diligence process because you can't evidence that the change is in place. The other thing is customer relationships. When I buy businesses, I'm always looking for consistent customer base. If I see one that's sort of peaked suddenly because of a promotion, I will probably look at what's more consistent. So if you're doing something with your customers and you're doing promotions, try to make those something that's more sustainable and something that you can evidence from that. The other one is really one of the things I found so many times is people spend their money on the wrong thing. So I'll go back to the first slide on feasibility and impact. Make sure that it's feasible and it's something that you can achieve without spending too much money, and make sure that the impact is there, not just in the short term, but in the long term, and that would be really good. The other thing is when you've done these improvements, nobody bothers to, well, very few people actually bother detailing that as a process. That is part of your IP. That's what makes you special, and that's what people who are looking to buy your business will want. So the key mistake is if you've made those changes or you've got fantastic systems and processes, just get it right, written down, and that might be getting somebody in your team to do it. I think in terms of the mistakes that you can make with your prioritization, I work with a software company in Birmingham, and they made a little bit of an error as part of this process by spending a lot of money developing a new product line before they sold the business. It was a really innovative product, so it's absolutely fantastic. But unfortunately, by the time they sold the business, the product was still untested in the market and required significant ongoing development. And potential buyers saw that, so they thought they'll need a lot more investment, and that reduced the price of the business. They saw it as a risk. So I think it's much better to focus on optimizing and documenting your successful product lines and customer relationships if you're looking to sell your business in the next couple of years. Putting a new product in place is often a longer time frame to be able to see that success. I hope that's answered your question. The next one here is oh, this is a great one. How far in advance of selling my business how soon in advance of selling my business should I make these changes? So in terms of the timeline, you really, in an ideal world, should, to maximize the value of your business when it sells and to minimize the speed of selling, so it sells quickly, it normally takes over 2 years to prepare your company correctly. I have done this, and I've done fire sales, and I've helped businesses to do this in 6 months. But if you want to do a really structured approach and show that additional value and really get the great valuation, I would do that. It allows you time to implement meaningful improvements, demonstrate consistent performance, which is a really critical thing, particularly on a financial level, and build a really good track record. If you can make a change to a product and put that in place, that will tend to take about 6 months. If you're selling 18 months after that, you've then got 18 months of incredible history to show how well that product's sold. You also need to think about your initial focus areas. So I always sort of try to categorize this into silos. The first one is definitely finance. That's the first one all of your buyers will look at. So it's making sure that your financial records are fantastic, and you need to prioritize doing that and improve the profitability and cash flow. Lack of cash flow and running out of money is the #1 reason that businesses in the UK fail. So you've really got to think about bringing in consistent cash on a monthly basis. And that's why any business that's for sale that can show a monthly recurring revenue is going to always be so much more attractive. So think about that. The other one is your operations and processes. So some businesses I've worked with tend to find that they've got a different process or procedure in each of their different sites if they're multi-site. You want to try and streamline that and really document your processes, make sure that they are effective. And because all buyers will consider there's a risk that they may lose key people in your business when they buy it, you want to make sure that it's not one single point of failure, i.e. somebody who owns the process and only that individual understands that process, because if they leave, then that process will be lost as well. So spend time with your operations documenting all of that. The customer base is important one, as well as the recurring revenue that I've talked about. Many business buyers are put off if you're dependent on just one or two customers. So you want to have a regular customer base, which you can demonstrate brilliantly through if you have recurring revenue, and a consistently growing customer base to show that there's potential for the business in the future. So also, the final one, I think you've got legal and compliance, but I think even more important is the management team. Very often the business owners I work with who are looking to sell their businesses work in their business rather than on their business. So you really want to make sure that if you've got a year, 2 or 3 years lead up, that you pass over your responsibility to key members of your staff. You build up a strong management team and make sure that they do the stuff in your business so that you can work on the business rather than in it, and it makes it so much more attractive to anyone looking to buy your business. I wanted to really have an example of that. One sprung to mind of grocers that did gourmet stuff in Oxford. So they actually set aside 3 years between starting to think about selling and actually selling. And so the first thing they looked at is the financial reporting systems and inventory management system. The inventory management system in particular, you can do it in a quarter, in 13 months, but it can take longer to see the effectiveness. They prioritized those two things because they wanted to then be able to demonstrate consistent profit growth and effective operations over the 2 years, and it really made them much more attractive. And they got several larger chains interested in them, and they got really good valuation afterwards. Okay, I think we've got time for just one more question. Okay. Oh, okay. Practical examples somebody's asked for of how you can really make your business stand out. Oh, there's so many of these. Revenue streams. So we talked about recurring revenue. That's really important, but you want to make sure that you've got diversified income silos. Try not to be too dependent on one or two customers, and try not to be too dependent on products and services. If you've got a range of those, it spreads the risk and it makes you much more attractive. You want to make sure that you've got the best tech in place for that without spending too much money. So if you, for example, if your finance is all on paper and Excel spreadsheets, it wouldn't do you too bad to get onto a financial package like Xero, which you can have for zero fee. And it shows that you're serious about your tech and that you've got systems and processes in place for your finances. You want to have a scalable business model. That's what most buyers are really looking for. Something that is evidenced that it's got a customer need, and something that's evidenced that you've still got potential more customers in your area or opportunity for geographic expansion. Contracts. From a legal perspective, make sure that your contracts are in place. So, for example, I buy care businesses and they have contracts with the local authorities, which they depend on for a lot of their volume of work. And I've often come across them where the contractors run out and they've got an agreement in principle. You really want to make sure that these things are in writing, and that's your leases, that's any contract with suppliers and customers as well. So, and also your employees, of course. Your intellectual property is another thing. Now, people think our intellectual property is all about having patents, and it's not. It's much, much cheaper to do things like trademark things, which might be the name of your business. If you can have some level of protection like that, trademark costs you a few pounds. I've done it many times. But if you've got something which is absolutely incredible and stands out, there are IP companies that I can put you in touch with who will give you a free review of your whole intellectual property, no cost to you, and then they will say, actually, there's 5 patents you could potentially bring about here, but if you can focus on one, it will improve the value of your business. Or they'll say, actually, you don't need to do anything before you sell your business, but possibly you want to trademark something. So it's definitely worth doing. So those are my key areas: finance, operations, people. Oh yes, the people. Making sure that all of your best people are contracted and you've got the right employment contracts. And if there's a chance of them potentially leaving, it's really good to give them more responsibilities, and if you can afford to, pay them for that or give them bonuses relating to the performance. So I'll finish off with an example on that. So I work with a ecological packaging company who were also down the road in Bristol. They had a proprietary biodegradable packaging material that they used. And they also, which is really fashionable and trendy at the moment, had a circular economy model, which meant that not only did they use a lot of recyclable material, but they brought back in the material and reused it again. So these initiatives were really good at improving their profitability, but was particularly important with CSR being really important. You've got so many more buyers who are looking at ecologically sound, environmentally conscious situations. And what's most exciting is that's also the supermarket chains. The big businesses in particular have got the money to spend on ESR and similar projects. So their unique product and their growing client base was great, but adding on the environmental impact, it really helped with brand associations, and they got some really big companies that were happy to tick that box, that were interested in their business. So their valuation went way up, but they decided to keep hold of the business and continue to grow it. So that was us covering everything that you can do to make a real impact, looking at the feasibility and really seeing how you can improve your business to improve the value. I hope you've enjoyed it today. You can find more of these in our on our YouTube pages, and you'll be sent the link afterwards. And I also wanted to say next Friday we have the week 6, and that will be covering financial optimization. So how can you make the most of your finances? It's always an interesting subject, and I'll be going through and giving you 5 key things that you need to do and giving examples of that in action so you can see how people have implemented those. So I hope you have a fantastic weekend. We will also send out details and a link to the Sales Success Circle so you can find out more about that. We have a very, very special offer on about that at the moment, so watch out for that. And if you've got anyone else that you know who's looking at selling their business or just improving the valuation, the sales and the profit, put them in touch. We'd love to see them on our weekly calls every Friday at midday. Thank you. Bye.